It is 6-year-old Aisha trying delicately to find her footing in Kibera's narrow alleys, who leads us into a world where even in the stillness of the early morning, there are no silent cries as mothers hurriedly join a struggle to find shelter for their children at this hour. The one thing they have in common is that they are domestic workers who must leave their children behind as they join a rat race in their bid to put food on the table at the end of each day. But it is behind these closed doors that the weight and intensity of a domestic worker's dilemma hangs in the air. Aisha had until a few months ago been caught up in a cycle that involved taking care of her 1-year-old sister throughout the day alone as her mother, Nancy Namsoti, fended for them, Aisha fitting into shoes too big for her.
Siku yenye nikikosa kwenda kibarua, sasa mimi wanabaki na mtoi. Nikijaribu kuangalia mtoi na mkulisha hapa hivi. Sasa nikipata kibarua ndo tunawaacha majirani.
The risks of their decision remain unspoken throughout our conversation, but are ever present as seen in how, just minutes before she has to leave her children, a mother dotes on them, their bond exactly what has forced her to stop leaving them unattended to when she goes in search of a job and instead change her routine.
Mimi wanaamka saa 11 kamili na watengenezea chakula. Ikifika saa 12 na upeleka daycare asubuhi. Alafu naenda kibarua.
Her assertions are what give way to yet another world, a few steps from her house, still in the heart of Kibera, introducing us to a caregiver and ushering us into a new reality dawning on the slum population.
Yeah, juniors. Mom, come. Mami anaenda kazi.
That of having to pay for daycare, mothers having to part with their hard-earned money to give decent cover to their young ones while away.
Watoto waanza kuingia kuanzia 11:45 na total namba ya watoto wale ninapata kwa siku wanakuanga watoto 21.
Kemunto charges 20 shillings every day to take care of the children up to 4 p.m. or in some cases even 8 p.m. The price is a costly affair for each one of the domestic workers.
Kusema kweli hizo pesa huwa hazitoshi. Juu ni kibarua.
Kuna yule mwenye anaweza kunilipa kwa hiyo siku na kuna yule mwenye anaweza kunilipa wiki kama amepata pesa na kuna wengine pia hata hawalipi.
The children stay at Kemunto's house until about 8 a.m. before they are moved to the day center a few steps from her house. The daycare here being a church space that has been turned into a shelter for the about 20 children throughout the week.
Kufika saa moja unapata wamesikia njaa, tunaanza kuwapatia chakula. Baada ya kuwapatia chakula, sasa tunaanza tena kuwatrain, kuna vitu tunawafanyia hapo. Sasa tuseme kuanzia saa 2:30 tunaanza kuwaimbiza, kuangalia kama ni wasafi.
But it is perhaps Jane Atieno, a woman I meet at her place of work, who brings to the fore the reality of women who are domestic workers and as a result cannot afford to take their children to daycare centers.
Naweza kuacha mlango wazi, wanakaa tu hapo kwa mlango mpaka masaa yenye narudi.
This is the reality seen in homes that we find locked, children we find abandoned, or those we see playing with their peers while whiling away time until their mothers get home.
Naomba tu Mungu tu ndiye ananiangalilia juu mimi sina na uwezo.
The cycle is one that points to the perception that if domestic workers earned their rightfully stipulated wage as per the law, then maybe they could afford to ensure their children are well taken care of.
6,000 shillings is what the minimum person should be working, but domestic workers tend to be isolated. A lot of people actually call domestic workers house helps, so they actually even think they're just there to help them. So a lot of them are paying them below the minimum wage.
And so are there any alternatives for domestic workers who cannot afford to take their children to daycare centers?
So some of the things we encourage are networks where we have like I have a group in Korogosho, 10 of them, each of them have children, and you know they go and sit somewhere waiting for their luck. to get employment, those bibaruas. And so once they do that, they've decided to take turns in looking after children.
So we spoke to domestic workers who cannot afford 20 shillings to have their children taken care of, which begs the question, how much do you pay them? How much should you be paying them? We delve into that in detail in next week's Lifestyle Edition. Mbilu, Citizen Weekend.